Welcome back to another video. If you like this video, please like it and subscribe to the channel. In this video, we're going to discuss what I call the three things that we must own in life. The three areas that are all internal that we must own if we're really going to live life to the best. If we're really going to live life being in control. And I'm going to share with you what those three things are. Whenever I get to talk to people, I'm very blessed to do what I do, and we discuss what they're struggling with, it tends to be one of these three things. Sometimes, unfortunately, it's all three things. And of course, if you're struggling with any of these things, it's going to have an impact on how we feel and how the quality of our life. And if you're in an intimate relationship, these three things are going to impact that intimate relationship as well. So I want to work through what these three things are. And they're probably not new to you if you've seen my other videos, because a lot of the videos will talk about these three things, but I really wanted to sum it up in one video. So what are these three things? So the first thing, of course, is emotional intelligence, knowing how to self-communicate. Because as we all know, it's not about what happens to us. It's not about what happens to us. It's not about the event. It's the way we communicate to ourselves about the event. It's the meaning that we give to the event. It's the narrative that we give to the event. There are painful things that happen in life, but the meaning that we give to it is going to determine everything. And if we don't know how to, communicate to ourselves in a healthy, balanced way, we're going to really struggle. So for example, right, if you take a personal example that I've been through, a divorce. Divorce is painful. It doesn't matter if you want to get out of that marriage, you want to get out of that intimate relationship, it's still a painful procedure because there's a lot of uncertainty, there's a lot of new things that you've got to get used to. It's not what you've used to, especially if you're in a long-term relationship. So even if you wanted out of that relationship, there's a lot of adjustment, and adjustments can be uncomfortable, it can be difficult, and it can be painful. We can all agree on that. But what's going to determine where you go from that divorce, let's use that as an example, is going to be the way that we communicate with ourselves. So if someone sees divorce as, that's it, I'm now, all alone, I'm no longer a father or mother to my kids because I don't have them 100% of the time, and no one's going to want to marry me, well, that painful divorce is going to turn into an incredible amount of suffering. And that thinking is going to create feelings of maybe feeling down, maybe anger, maybe even depression, right? And then from that place, how much positive actions are they going to take to further their life mission and what they want out of life? Chances are they aren't. But if someone goes through the painful divorce and says, well, this is a new beginning, this is a new opportunity to learn from what happened and to build a better relationship going forward with someone new, and I still have everything that's important to me, and I'm still a father or a mother, and I now have quality time with the kids by myself, and they see the other side of the truth, right? Because there's a lot of positive truth through every painful event. However painful the divorce is, they're going to move on, and that pain of the divorce is going to settle after a while because they've taken a personal narrative that allows them to move forward in a positive, healthy, and empowered way. So knowing how to communicate with ourselves, emotional intelligence, is going to be the key, because there's always going to be challenges. Life doesn't go in a straight line. If you're trying to achieve something and it doesn't work the first time and things get in the way, and you're communicating with yourselves and you're not dealing with that emotion of frustration and that causes you to give up, well, it's not about the stumbling block, it's not about the roadblock, it's about the way we're communicating with ourselves in regards to that roadblock. Because the thinking of, well, this is a roadblock, that means it's not for me, it's never going to work, is going to make us feel disillusioned, frustrated, and we're likely to give up. But the type of thinking of, well, how am I going to get through this? What do I need to do? Who do I need to speak to? Who's got the expertise in helping me to get through this journey that I'm trying to get through and to deal with this stumbling block, is going to then make us feel empowered. It's going to make us feel back in control. So emotional intelligence plays out in every area of life, in relationships, in work, in weight loss, and everything. Because again, I know from my weight loss journey, there were times where I broke it. There was times where I wasn't just by the chocolate cupboard, I was in the chocolate cupboard and went on a binge. So, but the thinking about it, the emotional intelligence, the self-communication around that stumbling block, that time that I stumbled, or the few times that many times that I stumbled, was key to my success of getting to where I'm at, which I'm very happy with, right? And I've been able to keep it and keep on growing it as well, in a healthy way. It comes down to the self-communication, the emotional intelligence. So if you break your diet, you go to a party and you binge on all the pastries, and therefore you build up this thinking of, oh, see, it's never going to work, I'm never going to be able to hold myself back, you're going to feel disillusioned, you're going to feel frustrated, you're going to maybe get angry at yourself, you may even get down because, our physical body is not something that we can hide, we take it wherever we go. So it's a big factor in life. So, and that's going to therefore make you give up on the diet, and you're going to feel you can't get what's really important to you. It may even lead to feeling down and depressed. But if you have the thinking, which is the thinking that I adopted, which is what I learned to do was to understand, why did I go for the pastries? What made me go to the pastries, or what made me binge? What was it? What was the trigger? What do I need to learn going forward? How am I going to make sure this doesn't happen again? And let's put this in the whole picture, right? I binged once. But what about the last 60 days where I've been eating healthy? There's one binging moment which can be undone in many different ways by, you can drink lots of water, you can make sure to really be careful what you eat over the next couple of days, eat healthy, and you can make it up. In the same way that you can pull on, you can lose, right? There's healthy ways to counteract when we eat stuff that we shouldn't eat. So my thinking was always, okay, what was the trigger? What made me do what I did? What am I going to do next time? What am I going to learn from this event? And how am I going to undo this? So I would drink lots of water, I would make sure to really go healthy over the next couple of meals, and it was a learning process. So for example, when I remember one time that I went to an event and I ate lots of stuff I shouldn't have eaten, I started asking those questions and I came to the realization that I went to the event hungry. So when I was already hungry going into the event, it was too much, and therefore I couldn't hold myself back. So I learned, before I go to an event where I know there's going to be stuff that I don't really want to eat, I should eat something beforehand, so I'm going in satisfied, so the urge to eat isn't as much as if I go when I am going in starving hungry, right? So emotional intelligence is going to play out in every area of life: relationships, work, weight loss, well-being, spirituality, everything. And if we don't have that emotional intelligence, then we're going to be held prisoner to what happens to us, instead of us taking control of the way that we think and the way that we communicate with ourselves and our emotional intelligence. And I've got a whole course, so you can see the link below. Incredible concept to understand not only what our emotions are, because there is no such thing as a negative emotion, which is quite a new concept for a lot of people, and I explain why that's true through the course, but you also learn how to be emotionally intelligent, how to engage with events or things that have happened in the past, or even things that are happening presently, or things that we're thinking about in the future, how to engage with them so they put us back in control, which is the key feeling or the key concept that we're trying to build through emotional intelligence, which is to feel certain that I can deal with what's going on, to feel certain about myself, and to feel certain that I can move forward and get what I want. We want that feeling of certainty, which makes us feel in control. That's the first thing, emotional intelligence. So maybe let's just ask ourselves a question before we move on to the second thing. Where are we on that emotional intelligence scale? And as I've said in a previous video, it's not all or nothing. It's not you either do have emotional intelligence or you don't have emotional intelligence. It's where are we on this scale? This being more negative and this being more positive. Where are we? And what are we currently doing to build it up? How many people do I say, or do I ask, when was the last time you picked up a book? When was the last time you went on YouTube and listened to a self-growth or a personal development idea? And so many people look at me like I'm crazy. I'm used to that look. But if we're not growing the mind, then we're not going to be more than we were yesterday and the day before that. We have to grow the mind. The mind is a computer. It's a record of the past. When we woke up this morning, our brain knows how to live today based upon the information that it's got from the previous years that we've lived. And all the information is going to build either the same day or a new day if we input new information, like a computer. If you want to start playing a game or you want some certain software, you've got to upload the software. If you don't upload the software, your computer's not going to have the ability to run that software. So we have to upgrade our thinking. So the course below would be a great starting place to really building that sense of emotional intelligence. That is the first thing that we must own, the first thing out of the three things, and no priority. They're all as equally important and they all interact and overlap with each other. But emotional intelligence is one of the critical three things that we must own in life if we're going to feel in control, if we want the best chance of getting what we want out of life and getting the feelings that we want out of life. The second thing that we have to own is self-worth. It's the all-encompassing feeling that we have to have, the knowledge and feeling that we are good enough, that we are worthy. And I've discussed this in my self-worth course, and you can get the book below as well, You Already Incredible. And there's one critical mistake that people make when it comes to self-worth that holds them back from feeling that they are worthy. If we don't have this, we are literally going to be beggars every single day trying to get that self-worth met. It's a feeling that we have to get. And I've seen so many people get self-worth met, get their sense of worth through really unhealthy ways, either through validation, through other people, which means that they become people pleasers and they end up doing things that goes against their standard of living, or even going against what they morally believe is right. I've seen people get into serious trouble in work, in relationships, in so many other areas, because they don't feel they have the ability to say no. because they need the validation of other people for them to be able to say, look, I'm a good person, this person likes me. We have to learn to like ourselves. And if we don't like ourselves and we don't feel comfortable with ourselves, we're going to experience a lot of loneliness, which again is going to make us, force us to do things to squash that emotion, could lead to unhealthy behaviors, or lead us to being so reliant on external factors, the external environment, that we're enslaved. These three things that we're discussing is pulling us in control and making us emotionally free so that we have the best chance to get the life that we deserve. And self-worth is such a critical one. I mean, self-worth, the damage that it does to relationship is, I see this playing out the whole time, right? So many times I'm dealing with couples and there's an issue with the relationship, and I use the intention principle. Again, you can get the book below and you can do the course below. Incredible concept that I discovered and put together. It's a game changer, but when someone's really struggling with their self-worth, there's no work that you can do because they are a beggar in the relationship and they are overburdening the relationship because it's a hospital. And when someone's in a hospital, they're not going to be their best productive self because they're reliant on just staying alive and surviving. And if you're relying on the relationship for you to feel that way, for you just to feel that you're good enough, that's a burden. You're not going to get to the stage of experiencing love and joy and going on a journey together because you're just trying to keep your head above the water and not drown in order to get this feeling of self-worth. So self-worth is absolutely critical, absolutely critical. It's the main cause to what holds people back. In fact, I was talking to someone who's very highly qualified, and we were talking about all the different kind of health conditions, anxiety and stress and anger and all these type of things that come up, and phobias and lots of other stuff that comes in. And the reality is, at some level, they all boil down to how we think about ourselves, right? It all boils down to emotional intelligence, but it also boils down to a lot of self-worth. The more self-worth that we have, the more powerful that we feel. And the more powerful that we feel, the more we can deal with life. And the more we feel we can deal with life, we're not going to get as many messages of anxiety, stress, anger, depression, because those emotions don't come about when we feel powerful, when we feel what I call being in that I can circle, when we feel empowered. So self-worth is absolutely critical. It's number two. Again, no priority. They're all as equally important, and they all overlap. If you've got emotional intelligence but you don't have self-worth, life is going to be a horror story, because we're going to be beggars every day looking for that daily dose of validation that we must get, with terrible negative consequences. So self-worth, again, if we don't read or we don't listen or we don't upgrade our information in regards to our self-worth, we can only do what we already know. The brain is a record of the past. So you can read the book or you can watch the free course on YouTube and discover the one critical mistake that people make when it comes to self-worth. I've also got some other videos as to why people can't praise themselves and what causes loneliness. Again, it all comes down to the same factor, the same underlying component, which is not giving ourselves enough self-acknowledgement, not praising ourselves, not having enough self-worth, not being independent in how we feel about ourselves. Too many people are dependent upon external things. Maybe the clothes that they wear make them feel that they're good enough. Maybe it's the car they drive. I know people, their self-worth comes down to the title of their job, and therefore they do too much in their work, and they tread on all the other values like their family. They don't give to the values that are really important to them because they're so consumed with getting that feeling of self-worth through their job or through their car or where they go on holiday or how their body looks or getting validation from other people, to terrible, terrible consequences. So the second thing is self-worth. Now we're going to go on to the third thing. The third thing and last thing, again, in no priority, is what I call living a value-driven life. And I talk about this again. I've got a whole course on this and how to live a value-driven life. Most people are living a task-orientated life. That's why they struggle to go to bed at night. I've got a video, I think, coming out shortly on that, why people struggle to really get to sleep, because they wake up each morning and the kind of narrative is, what have I got to do today? What have I got to do? And that's not exciting. No one's going to jump out of bed of the things they have to do. We jump out of bed and we're excited and we want to go to bed on time when we have the kind of question of, what do I want to do today, right? What do I want to do is very different to what have I got to do. And because so many people are living like a task-orientated life, it's just a list of things they've got to do, which is effectively many times just trying to avoid pain, right? I've got to do the washing, because if I don't do the washing, then I won't have anything to wear. And I've got to go to work, so if I don't go to work, I can't pay the bills and I'll be homeless, right? And I can't eat this, because if I eat this, I'm going to get overweight and then I'm going to be obese and die, or whatever it might be, right? They're constantly trying to avoid pain instead of having a value-driven life where they are looking to get pleasure. It's a very different way of thinking. It's a completely different way of thinking. But most people have no idea what their values are, so they don't know what they're driving towards. They know what they're trying to run away from. They know the pain that's available to them if they don't do these tasks, but they're not looking the other way. They're not looking to the other side of the equation. What am I going to get? What do I want to get, first of all? What do I have to do to get there? What am I going to get if I do these things, right? So they wake up each day with effectively a lack of meaning, a lack of purpose, and purpose and meaning is everything, right? We are meaning-driven people. We are meaning-driven people. It's all about purpose. What am I all about? What am I living for? What is the purpose to my day? What is the reason why I'm getting out of bed? Why should I get out of bed, right? And most people are driven to get out of bed because if they don't get out of bed and they don't do all the things they have to do, there's going to be a lot more pain, right? That's not the way we want to live our lives for the next 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 years. We don't want to live our lives for the next day living that way. So there's a very simple process that I put people through on the How to Discover Your Value. I think it's like 5 or 6 videos in really discovering our values and being driven by them. And when we have a sense of value, it builds a sense of excitement. And that sense of excitement builds an energy. And life is all about the energy that we bring. When we're energized and we feel powerful, we feel empowered and we feel in control and we feel certain, we're going to get a lot more stuff done and we're going to feel good internally. But if we don't feel those feelings because we're just focusing on all the tasks that we have to do and the avoidance of all the pain that it will bring if we don't do those things, that doesn't bring energy. That brings a sense of burden. That's a burden. And that's why so many people struggle to go to bed at night, because they don't want to shut their eyes and then have to wake up to a new day of all the things they have to do that don't really make them feel like they've got meaning or purpose. So they just want to stay up, and because in the evening generally is when people have their own time, especially if they're working, especially if they've got kids. So that's when they spend the evening doing their self-care of just indulging in stuff that really is maybe not necessarily healthy. Some things are, but again, watching a movie, that's okay. But if you're watching and binging every night, 4 hours till 2 o'clock in the morning, that's probably unhealthy. Why aren't we going to bed? That's the real question. Why aren't we going to bed in preparation of the next day? Well, the answer is most people aren't looking forward to their next day because it's all about things they have to do, not things they want to do. And that is the third thing. That is the third thing that's really important, is you can have all the emotional intelligence in the world and you can feel good about yourself, but if you don't know what you're living for, if we haven't got a sense of purpose, a sense of meaning, that's really going to eat at us. So we have to own all these 3 things. And I'll just finish off by saying this. If you're in a relationship and you're struggling in the relationship, but you're also struggling with one of these 3 things, or even more than one of these 3 things, then I would suggest that before we blame the relationship or we blame the other person, depending, every situation is different, of course. Some relationships we need to get out, we need to be safe. But assuming that's not the case, it's not a matter of being safe or not being safe, let's start focusing on ourselves, because a relationship is just a sum of what 2 people bring to the table, what 2 people bring to the game of table tennis that I talk about in the Intention Principle course, which you can see the link below to an incredible concept. It's been an absolute game changer with working with couples. I would suggest that we look to our side of the table tennis table, especially if we're struggling with those 3 things. Because if we don't have a sense of purpose, we're not really going to feel alive. And therefore, we're going to expect our spouse to give us that feeling. And that's a massive burden. If we're not feeling a sense of worth, then again, we're going to expect our spouse to do that. And we're going to get highly triggered over things that have got nothing to do with our spouse and everything to do with ourselves. And if we're emotionally not intelligent and we're struggling with anxiety, depression, anger, well, it's obvious what the effect of that's going to be on a relationship. So if we truly want to take control of our lives, if we truly want to be able to have the best chance of getting what we want in the future and to feel what we want to feel in the present, then these are the 3 critical things that I always tell people. These are the 3 things that we have to invest our time, energy, and money in, because ultimately these are going to decide the quality of our life.